If it wasn't clear in the title, spoilers for Miss Marvel, but I want the MCU every time now they talk about the X-Men or mention the word mutants for them to blast this sound. That's how they did it there.
Like a mutation.
And this is how I wanted to go down in other scenes.
I'm sorry to tell you this, son, but you're a mutant. So you paying with insurance or out of pocket?
Hello Marvel fans, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris. Miss Marvel has now completed its 6-episode arc, so now it's time for me to give you my spoiler thoughts on what I thought of the entire series, how Miss Marvel fits into the MCU, what that post-credit and big revelation means at the end of the show. But it's not just going to be all about my opinion. I want to hear from you Marvel fans down below. How do you rank Miss Marvel in all the Disney Plus shows? Were you enjoying it? Did you not even watch it? Really would love to hear from you guys, as long as it's not coming from a place of hate for unnecessary reasons. Alright, so before I begin this, I probably have some explaining to do. You guys know with mainly all the Disney Plus shows, I do a week-by-week breakdown and talk about the show, and when it came time for Miss Marvel, I think I was just a little burnt out on covering all these shows week to week, and for once I kind of wanted to watch a Disney Plus show without forcing myself to wake up at 2 in the morning, see it, get dressed, and then make a video and talk about it with you guys just to read a million hate comments, just because Miss Marvel was getting review bombed and people were just bashing it for all the wrong reasons. I just don't think it would have been nice for my mental health to be doing that for 6 weeks. However, I'm definitely going to be doing it for Miss Mommy She-Hulk, so stay tuned for that. So giving you my general thoughts on the show, I actually really enjoyed Miss Marvel. I thought it was a nice, pleasant series. It was very cute and sweet, and I was having my reservations before I saw it, because a lot of the trailers for Miss Marvel up and coming did give me those kind of like Disney-esque vibes. But that first episode put all those reservations to the side, because that was probably one of the best first episodes of the MCU. It was so vibrant, filled with such unique style, the way they even displayed text messages on screen, transition from scene to scene. Like, this director duo completely hooked me in from that first episode. Don't even get me started on Imani Vellani, because she is becoming now one of my favorite actresses in the MCU. She has so much charisma, charm, not even as Miss Marvel in the show, but outside of it, just being a huge fangirl and excited to be part of the MCU. Really loved what she brought to the character, easily relatable, but not just her, like her whole family dynamic in Miss Marvel was kind of the highlight. That's one of the things I found myself the most drawn to when watching Miss Marvel, is the relationship she was having with her parents, the mom, the father, the brother. I grew up in a Hispanic household and I know exactly what it's like to have immigrant parents, just overbearing, super protective, throwing all this pressure and ideals on you. It was really hitting the nail, and it made me grow really fond of the show. But even outside of that, Kamala, in the way she's just a fan of Marvel and gets bullied for it at school, having crushes on boys, dealing with responsibility, I feel like it's all stuff a lot of people can relate to. But it wasn't without its hiccups, because there were a number of things that just weren't always sitting right with me. For one, I know people were complaining about the change in Kamala's powers from what it was in the comics, even though the creator of Kamala is working on the show and had agreed to the changes. So the original creator of Miss Marvel had agreed to these changes, so it shouldn't really be that bad for us. I thought that was actually all handled pretty well, and it made sense for me because it's a cosmic-like power, and they have to connect her to Miss Marvel and all these other cosmic-like characters because she'll be popping up in the Marvels. But the aspect of that change that just kind of got dull with me is when they introduced the clandestines and they had that whole trip to Pakistan. That's kind of where the show dipped for me. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with going to another country. In fact, I thought that was kind of interesting and I was looking forward to what that would mean, but then it felt like this 6-episode show that is already very short, you have to tell a one-note story pretty quickly when most of the episodes are about 30 minutes long, and it felt like they took a whole random subplot that kind of undermined the entire story. Granted, there were really great moments in there with the backstory of Kamala's family and where she came from, but it all just kind of feels like an afterthought towards the end of the show, or like a side mission that could have been better included into the overall show, because I feel like Miss Marvel kind of had an identity issue with, like, who was its villain? Was it Damage Control? Was it the Clandestine? Or was it Kamaran? And for a bit, all three of them are villains at different points in time in this 6-episode show. So in all honesty, that was kind of like the biggest slump for me, and the reason I ended up just really liking Miss Marvel instead of loving it, which, to be fair, that's like my statement for almost every single Disney Plus show. I really like it, not sure if I love it. And it's just, again, because of this format and the way they continue to do things where everything in the end just leads up to a surprise villain reveal and a costume change and a setup for either a season 2 or something that leads into the movies. But with that said, one of my main complaints has always been the finale never lands, and I think the finale finale with Miss Marvel did land pretty good. I really love the way they introduced not only her name, her costume, but kind of also where she'll fit into the rest of the world. Those were some of the most beautiful parts of Miss Marvel, like when she finally gets her outfit given to her by her strict mother, who we never thought would be okay with this kind of lifestyle, but then lets her. And then we get these sort of like Spider-Man young superhero vibes as she's using her powers, crossing the street, stopping at lights. That's the kind of stuff I wish we got a lot more of. Kind of the street level fighting, protecting her own people, or really anybody who didn't have a voice in that city. Because for me, watching Kamala use her powers and protect people brought such a joy. But then again, it just kind of reminds me of some negatives, because we just got the best perfect suit for Miss Marvel, and they're going to change it. We only had it for like one episode in this 6-episode series, and we already know she's getting a costume change as soon as she hits Miss Marvel that, I gotta tell you, does not look as good as her first suit. But okay, talking about some of the big end revelations for the show is, one, we get the announcement that Inhumans are basically not a thing in the main MCU. Because as we come to find out, Bruno's talking to Kamala and he says he was looking into her genes and he saw that there was actually something wrong, kind of like a mutation. And as he says mutation, they play the X-Men theme from the 90s cartoon, letting you know this is X-Men related, basically making Kamala Khan the first official mutant of our MCU timeline. And this has been very divisive amongst fans. One, the people who are huge fans of Inhumans have been wanting them part of the MCU. They feel so cheated they just lost a character. And then X-Men fans who are like, what? She was never an X-Men. She doesn't belong here, which is kind of ironic if you know what the X-Men are all about.
We're the X-Men, dated metaphor for racism in the 60s. So, respect.
And you're shunning out Kamala Khan and not calling her one of us? But joking aside, I don't blame you. I'm kind of indifferent on this one. It doesn't necessarily make me mad that, like, oh, they turned an Inhuman into an X-Men, because I think it's pretty clear Kevin Feige just doesn't like the Inhumans. He stopped the Inhuman movie from happening. He straight up killed one of the most popular Inhumans in the latest movie. But it also, on the business movie side of things, it makes sense. It's kind of hard to have Inhumans and X-Men in your movie universe when they're extremely similar. A long time ago, this alien celestial race came and experimented on humans, left them a genetic gene that over time was part of their DNA, and thanks to this Terrigen mist, it activated the powers for Miss Marvel, something that was already inside of her. Which you could argue is sort of similar to X-Men. It's something that's already inside your DNA is there, it's just kind of activated from birth or when you hit puberty. The big question is though, what does this mean now for the MCU and how they'll introduce the X-Men? Basically, it lets us know the X-Men are out there. They're all alive, but their genetic X-Men code has not been unlocked. Kamala was able to get hers unlocked because the Bangle did it for her through the use of cosmic energy, which lets me know sometime in the MCU, whether it's in the Marvels, a team-up movie, or something else, there's going to be a big cosmic explosion on Earth, and it's going to unlock the genes for people like Miss Marvel who have it in them that they have powers, which I guess wouldn't be the worst way to explain the X-Men now being part of the MCU. And then if we move on to the post-credit scene, it's rather short, but super hype. We have Kamala just chilling in her room when her bangle starts glowing with energy, and out of nowhere, she switches places with Captain Marvel, where Carol Danvers is now in the room of Kamala Khan, staring at all her posters. This is clearly a segue then for the Marvels, the Captain Marvel sequel that's going to feature Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Monica Rambeau, along with probably other cosmic beings. We know from the end of Shang-Chi that she's right now investigating this cosmic energy that is radiating from Shang-Chi's 10 rings, which I think are related or very similar to Kamala Khan's bangle. It feels like they're almost made out of the same material and are generated from the same place. But in whatever Miss Marvel is doing and investigating, I guess it triggers some sort of link to that bangle, and now Miss Marvel's probably somewhere out in space, forcing Carol Danvers to go find this little girl, save her, and then realize, oh heck, you have powers too? Let's team up and do stuff together. At least that's how I see it going down. In the end though, I like Miss Marvel. I thought it was a good series, a lot of fun, excited to see this character interact with other MCU characters, whether they'll actually put her in the X-Men house or in the X-Men movies when that comes out, or if they'll keep her separate from that. I'm just happy we're finally getting closer to some familiar characters that we've been missing, like X-Men and Fantastic Four. But I throw it off to you guys. What did you think of Miss Marvel? Did you like the ending? What are your thoughts and theories? Anything and everything, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris, Mutant.